You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your technically brilliant host, and with me, as always, is my partner.
It's Rocco, but brilliant?
Brilliant.
Where is your wife when I need her?
I keep her out of here, so when I say dumb things like that, she doesn't laugh. It would ruin the whole effect, Rocco. Come on.
Oh, I need to email her this episode.
Listen, she hears words from me all the time. She just shakes her head. She's giving up, hoping that I'll have anything like a resembling contact with reality. I live in my own little world. It's fine. All right, but since you're going to email my wife, you know what that means? That means you're going to have to suffer through the engineering joke of the week. Okay. Are you ready, Rocco?
I'm ready.
Do you know that there are actually 10 different types of people in this world? Do you know who they are?
No.
There are those who understand binary and those that do not.
Oh, boy.
Oh, come on. That's a computer programming joke. I like that one. That's good. All right, folks. So today we're hitting another recurring episode of Bluebeam features you need in your life. And because Bluebeam Revu is such a cool program, and almost everybody out there listening works with it at some level. I know it's something that we do an absolute ton of consulting work around here, and in the Bluebeam environment here at Zentech. Honestly, I'd probably say at this point we're probably the largest Bluebeam services consultant in North America. And I always really like the look of joy that people get on their faces when I show them some cool new tool or some new process in the system that they've never seen before, right? So I like this series of topics, right? So that I can do the same thing for our listeners, even if we're on a podcast and I can't see your happy, smiling faces. And the tool that I wanted to focus on today in Bluebeam is the Spaces feature. Spaces is one of those tools that people are kind of peripherally. How do we pronounce peripherally? You ever hit a word you just can't say it, no matter what? They're peripherally. Just sounds
you
weird.
got it.
Okay, I'll go with it. If it's wrong, it's Rocco's fault. He told me it was good. Most people are kind of at least aware of it, right? But most of the clients that we sit down with aren't actually using Spaces. Once I kind of show them what Spaces can do, that changes. They immediately start to see, once someone kind of explains it to them, they can see the benefits of integrating such a simple and powerful tool into their daily workflow. So Rocco, we show Spaces in almost all of our training classes. Right? It's part of our standard training, and we incorporate it into just about every consulting job at some level. Do we find that are a lot of people completely new to Spaces and the concept, or are they aware of it and just looking for some help to kind of get it working?
It's split, right? There's definitely a lot of people that aren't aware of it. And so a lot of people come to us with, this is what I'd like to do. Like, how do I go about doing this? And I see you in a lot of the demos and discussions kind of break out into this area of Spaces. So it all depends on the level of user that you are. Right.
Yeah. I absolutely love Spaces, right? I'm always showing this. So I tell you what, for the folks listening, in case you don't know, let's start by explaining what a space actually is in Bluebeam Revu, right? It's a region on your PDF that you just draw an outline around and you give it a name. It's that easy, right? Whether it's a building or a block and a lot or a phase or a hallway or a heating zone, it doesn't matter, right? You're basically telling Bluebeam the real world name of any location on your plans, right? Simple, right? As basic as it gets. And I think that that simplicity is what keeps folks from looking into spaces on their own jobs until we kind of point it out to them. Because they look at it, they look at their plans and they see that the architect or the engineer has already labeled the room in my plan, right? So why am I going to duplicate that, right? Everybody knows how to read. Why am I bothering? The key here is that by defining the area as a Bluebeam space, Revu can begin to automatically track any markup, any tool, any measurement, or just about anything else that you place inside that space. All right, so if you kind of think of it like this, right? If you define, warehouse 100 on your plan as a space, then, once you start dropping, symbols on your PDF for, light fixtures and outlets and valves and electrical panels, whatever inside that warehouse, Bluebeam can immediately tell you exactly where and how many of each type of object resides in every space. Right? And it even updates those values as you move an item from one space to another. If you're moving from one room to another or whatever on your plans. So let's say that I have 3 fire extinguishers that are in room number 10, and I have that labeled as a space. Then I move one of those to room 11. Bluebeam automatically adjusts its markup list and its reporting to show me that there are 2 in room 10 and 1 in room 11. Right? And it gives you just an incredible amount of flexibility in estimating and in facility control and inventory planning. And it's huge on the construction side, right? Where it's just an absolute moneymaker when you're trying to do, prefab work or efficient staging of materials. If you're able to, look at Bluebeam and have it tell you that, hey, you need, 40 pre-cut steel studs and 22 sheets of half-inch drywall and 2 boxes of 1-inch screws and 6 rolls of tape and 1 5-gallon bucket of joint compound within that warehouse space, right? That is a huge savings, right? Because we can have all of that material, bundled on a pallet and shrink wrapped and delivered directly to that area of the job. So people aren't running all over or waiting on multiple deliveries or double ordering materials because something that they needed was, for that warehouse is buried at the bottom of a construction trailer on the other side of the site. Right? That's where the money really starts to roll in using these spaces. So Rocco, how do construction folks see that type of functionality with spaces when we kind of show it to them for the first time?
Yeah, they're impressed. I mean, their eyes, kind of glow with excitement of ideas of what they can do. And again, Bluebeam is such an affordable tool, and there's so many hidden features that a lot of people just see Bluebeam as a PDF, markup tool, and when we have discussions on the sales end, hey, do you know that Bluebeam is capable of handling all these other areas? That they're like, well, yeah, I've heard about it, so when you bring them to the table, and again in the demos and discussions that we do, and it's like, wow, all right, now my mind is flowing of what we can do here.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes you just need someone to kind of like crack the door a little bit so that your own imagination can start filling in where you can go with this and how it can benefit you. So, look, to my mind, another, huge benefit of working with spaces is that you can sort and filter your markups list and your output reports, your CSVs, etc. Inside of Bluebeam. You can sort and filter those by space. In other words, if you do a takeoff, right, for a huge job that you're going to do in 4 phases, right? We always struggle, right? We do this manually. How do we limit our materials list so that we're only ordering what we need to complete phase 1, right? And we're not killing our cash flow because, well, it's going to take too long and it's too hard to break down materials and components by phase. And with Revu spaces, that's all automatically handled, right? You can just enable filters in your markups list or your reporting dialog, and you tell Bluebeam to show you only the items that are in the phase 1 space, and you're all ready to go. Right? And you can do the same thing with sorting. Right? So even if you wanted to do a printout of all the items for the whole 4-phase project, Bluebeam will list, which phase, which zone, which hall, etc. those items are in. Spaces are also, they're a really good way to coordinate your specifications and your RFIs, and even, as you guys, right, your punch items, right, where they are in the real world, to be sure that, all of the areas on your job are fully understood with what has to happen, and that all the work's been completed correctly, right, before moving on to other areas. And spaces help you, control all of that in a dozen different ways. All right, I tell you what, we need to take a break here so we can fit in today's sponsor for a quick word. And when we come back, I want to get into more of the how-to part of working with spaces in Bluebeam. So stand by, folks. We will be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call Podcast is being sponsored by both Rocco and I. Zentech, we want to talk to you guys about our Bluebeam Revu Toolset Kickstart program. Look, you guys fight with trying to get reliable, repeatable quantity takeoff and markup items from your Bluebeam software, right? Are you guys frustrated having to go in and change and modify the display properties of every single item that you create inside a review? Well, that's what we're here to help you guys with the Kickstart program. We give you tools that you need built to your specifications at an affordable fixed cost. You can fully develop tool sets for any industry. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what you do, we can help you work better with Bluebeam custom tools. So Rocco, why don't you tell folks how they get info on our Kickstart program?
Yeah, the big thing is it is, like you said, Jim, it's one fixed price. So it's $29.95, and we can help you to prove to your management what
is it $29.95?
No, Jim, it's $2,995.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Oh, of course. So hit up our website, check out the details. We'd be happy to talk to you. It's zentechconsultants.net. Reach out to us, sales@zentechconsultants.net, or give us a ring, 866-824-4459.
All right, the Bluebeam Revu Toolset Kickstart program. Everything you guys need to be Bluebeam experts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking about using the Spaces tool inside of Bluebeam Revu. And in this half of the show, I want to talk to you guys, or kind of walk you through how to use the tool, right? Along with some of the, we'll call them side benefits, I guess, that come from using it that may not be immediately evident to people who are new to this Spaces concept. The great thing about working with spaces is that they're so simple to use that literally anybody can do this. It really is as simple as just, running the spaces command, and then you just click on the corners of whatever space you're defining on your plan to outline it, and then you give it a name. Basically, if you know how to use a mouse, you know how to run the space tool. That's it. And I like to point out, to folks, right, when I'm kind of showing the spaces, that, once they've been placed, they can very easily be edited and adjusted just like any other closed shape inside of Bluebeam, right? If you guys are familiar with it, you can add and subtract control points. You can convert things or include, arcs and curves, and you can change the color of the space and the opacity of the fills and anything else that you need to do, right, in case of any revisions or changes or ASIs that come up over the course of the project. It is so simple to place spaces on your PDFs that I actually have a lot of clients who go in and just have their admin staff do that, right, as part of the setup on every single job as soon as the plans come in the door, right? Even if they're just bidding a job, they just send their admin and say, just go put all the spaces in before we start an estimate or anything else. And one of the things that's great is that Bluebeam, it even lets you, we'll use the word nest. It lets you nest spaces inside of each other, right? So going back to, our warehouse setup, right? If there are offices or storage rooms inside the warehouse, Revu will list each of those rooms as a subset of the warehouse. And it will actually call it out as, warehouse 100 dash storage room A, warehouse 100 dash, power facility room 3, whatever, and so on and so on. And the only time that I actually ever get pushback. Once I've shown people how to use spaces and what it can do, the only time I ever get pushback on doing this on every job is when companies are just so overwhelmed with work that they literally can't spare anybody, intern, not even the admin staff, to do something this easy. Yeah, and luckily, that's actually one of the areas that we can work with you guys here at Zentech, as part of our construction project setup for Bluebeam system. And that's where I, wake up Rocco and tell him it's time to earn your pay today, Rocco. So what are our construction setup services for Bluebeam, and where do people find more info on them, and what they can do, and what we do and what it might cost on their jobs?
Yeah, so it's we work with small to large jobs. I mean, a couple hundred PDF sheets up to a couple thousand or more if you need it. So the size of the job doesn't matter, and we can help with all the scaling, the labeling, the linking, the rotating of all of your PDF files. And there's different levels of a program that we offer within our project setup services. You could see details on our website, but we get creative with folks, right? I mean, let's talk. If you guys are interested, hit up our website, see the details of what's there at zentechconsultants.net, and reach out to us. We definitely have done variations of our project setup services for customers over the years as well. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, getting in there and right. We list the out of the box things that we generally talk about, but a lot of different clients have different needs and particular processes, and we can work those in too. So yeah, it's a good thing to hit and then just talk to us if you have any questions. All right, so now, all right, let's get into it. In case the spaces that we've talked about so far, which are really powerful, but if it's still not powerful enough, I'm going to sweeten the pot a bit for you guys. Look,
sweeten the pot. What are you going to give them, a couple hundred each?
Well, listen, the spaces will save them a couple of thousand each. How's that? That'll sweeten it up. Because once the spaces have all been defined, they loan themselves to a whole bunch of additional functionalities and tools inside of Bluebeam that can also save you a ton of time and money. See, that's the sweetening, Rocco. I give them time and money back. So let's shift back to our Warehouse 100 example room, and let's get more function out of our defined space. All right, so if I just right click on that Warehouse 100 space name in Review, I get the ability to create a snapshot, all right, of that space, and that a snapshot is essentially a screen capture of that area that I can then paste into any other region of that drawing or any other PDF and adjust the size and scale, right? And this is just an absolutely ideal way to create enlarged plans of detailed layouts for tight areas, right, in just a few seconds. And those snapshotted spaces will even retain the space name. So you can flatten those, right, to be part of your underlying PDF, right? In other words, it'd be just like you printed it, right? And then you can add markups, etc., on top, and Review will still recognize that all of your materials and features and tools are still in Warehouse 100, even if it's now on a completely different PDF at 10 times the size that it originally was. Cool, right? I can also right-click on any space, and I can instantly have Bluebeam generate an area measurement from the space. Okay, so we're right away getting into some solid estimating returns here. So, if you guys need to go in and do, reflected ceiling, or you got to do flooring or carpeting or whatever, or even if you're just doing, a ROM estimate based on square footage calculations, right? You can do that per the spaces, right? And it's already done. It's already set because the space is really just a closed area, just like an area would be, right? And you even have the ability to copy and paste any or all of the spaces that you define in a given plan from page to page using the exact same coordinates. So they drop in the exact same spot. That means you can go in and you can define all the spaces on your first floor layout plan, then just copy and paste them to the plumbing plan, to the electrical plan, to the structural plans, etc., in just a matter of seconds, so that all your materials and everything are being tracked in terms of what space they're in. So, Rocco, in terms of, I guess, setting folks up for estimating and takeoff tools in Revu, how important is the ability to integrate spaces into their takeoff processes, for most of our clients?
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty important process, but again, it's understanding the process and how it all fits in. And that's where we can have those discussions. But it seems to be, at least from what you're highlighting, seems like a big important part.
Yeah, there you go. Like I said at the beginning of the show today, I mean, I show this to every single client when we're having our initial discussions. It's like, dude, you got to be using this process on every job. So, what I guess, one last thing that I want to point out here about spaces is that they are fully integrated into the Bluebeam hyperlinking system. In other words, whenever you add a link to any page, you are going to have the option, right, to drive that link to any defined space from any open PDF from a simple drop-down list, right? That way, when people click on your hyperlink, they're going to be taken directly to that specific plan and then zoomed into that specific space.
Yeah, a lot of people like that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's amazing. Yeah, you're directing people to the information they need at the exact moment they need it without a whole lot of back and forth and conversations. So yeah, those of you guys who are listening out there, think about this for a minute, right? So do you have, let's say, a detail of a light that is only going to go into our Warehouse 100 space? Well, people can just click on the detail page and see where that goes in the project immediately. They just click, it takes them right to that room. Right? And then what about your specifications? Right? What if you have a few sections or tables that apply, only to the Warehouse 100 structural steel installation? Not a problem. You just highlight the text in your spec and hyperlink it to the Warehouse 100 space on your structural plans so they can see exactly how the designer intended that installation to go. That's a huge, huge benefit for everybody involved on the job. And one other tip that I always give people on using spaces, right, is to not let yourself be, boxed in by the plan. What I mean by that is that you can define spaces any way that you need them to be, right? So get a little creative, use your imagination here. One thing that I show on just about every demo that I do with spaces is I go in and I'll define a road on a civil project. Okay. And I can easily just outline, the entire roadway and I call it, hey, this is Main Street. Great. The issue though is that Main Street might be 10 miles long. So it doesn't really help a whole lot in identifying where things are in the real world, does it? Right? It could be anywhere across 10 miles. Well, that's where I get a little creative and I use that, the nesting concept we discussed earlier, and I make subspaces along my roadways between each 100-foot station range, right? So I can just go in and create a station between, 600 and 700 and I call it that, right? And then Revu is going to tell me that, hey, this particular catch basin, it's on Main Street, right? But it's between station 600 and 700. That brings me down from a 10-mile stretch to within 100 feet. It makes it a lot easier to find what you're looking for, right? So, get a little bit creative in organizing spaces and you can completely change the way that you control and work with your Revu data. And all of that can have a very positive effect on your bottom line. Right? And with that, I'm going to leave you guys here today. Unless, Rocco, anything you want to throw in there?
No, I'm good to go.
Rocco's good to go, and so am I, folks. So we'll get out of here, and we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.